Welcome back, everybody, to the Lion's Den. Today we speak with Damon Raque. Now, this episode is probably the most decadent of all of our episodes to date. Damon and I talk about wine. We talk about delicious cuisine. We talk about luxury establishments and traveling to amazing places. And the reason we do that is because Damon is creating a business called Bottle Bank, where he is trying to take all of those different things and bring it in and wrap it up into one offering for people to come experience. And so this is a really cool business idea. I love it. I think you guys are gonna really enjoy it. So give this a listen. Damon, welcome to the Lion's Den.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. I was reading up about you, and I was really excited to speak with you because I love talking to people who underwent a life reset toward the end of 2020. The COVID
Sure.
reset or whatever. And I haven't told you this yet, but, my wife and I, we lived in North Carolina pre-COVID. We had a house, we had a boat, this great setup. Our family lived there in the same town. We were hanging out with our family all the time. And toward the end of 2020, we had that reflection period and we said, let's change things up completely. We sold everything. We moved to Hawaii. We lived there for a couple of years. We started our consulting firm and just built this, totally remote life. We travel around all the time. Never looked back. And thank you. So you went through something similar, I would think. And so I want to hear about your story. What happened in 2020 and what did you change?
It's kind of interesting. I think, looking back on it, I think it was kind of one of two things. People either use that as an opportunity to be self-reflective and, grow and expand, or it kind of went in the opposite direction. And, for me, I was enjoying a very fruitful career in financial services with a Fortune 100 company for the last 15 years. And, was a little restless and a little bored and a little stagnant, but in the big scheme of things, I was, kind of winning at the game of life and, had a great job and a great company to work for and was kind of living a great lifestyle. And, as luck would have it, it's kind of the fall of 2020 and we're in the depths of the pandemic. And like a lot of companies, mine kind of went through a massive change in their distribution model. And at the end of the day, territories were consolidated and eliminated. And I ended up not having a seat at the table. So at that point, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? And I just decided to kind of take the rest of the year off and just kind of enjoy things and enjoy the holidays and not have to worry about fourth quarter and starting the year off strong and business plans and, those sorts of things. And so first of the year came around to various recruiters and started taking interviews and was considering getting back into the industry, but knew that I'd probably be energized and re-engaged for, 18 months to 2 years, but then in all likelihood, I'd kind of, be back to where I was before. So, I thought about a conversation I had with myself when I turned 40, when I kind of took inventory of my life again, kind of in another reflective period, and realized that, what I wanted in my life was really pretty simple. I really wanted to eat great food. I wanted to drink great wine. I wanted to travel to amazing places and stay in beautiful hotels and experience wonderful things. And I wanted to do that with people that I loved and cared about, who loved and cared about me. The very best moments of my life were centered around some combination of those things. So with that as kind of the spirit behind Bottle Bank, I just decided, I'm gonna create an environment and a place where other people can experience those things. And that's really was kind of the genesis of the idea. And it's just kind of taken off from there. So it's been a wonderful journey and a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Well, I want to focus on the period of you stopped working in financial services. And what I see on your LinkedIn page after that is pretty awesome. You have just bon vivant on there, which I've never seen on anybody's LinkedIn page. It's pretty hilarious and awesome. So, and that's like a 3-year period on there. So, and that's when you were sort of traveling around doing those things that you said you love, right? Staying at great hotels, eating great food, drinking great wine. So where were you actually during that period? Where'd you go?
Well, I was in Atlanta and I was just, traveling to different places. I was in New York, I was in Las Vegas, a couple of places internationally, and really was just kind of looking for inspiration. I had, talked to a sommelier buddy of mine and had asked him, where do you see the biggest opportunity in the wine industry in the next 5 to 10 years? Under the simple advice, do something you're passionate about. And again, when I thought about, what I really wanted to do, I said to myself, man, I'm 45 years old. I've got no wife. I've got no kids. I've got no real responsibilities. I literally can do anything I want to do anywhere in the world. And most people never get that opportunity. Even fewer get it in the prime of their life. So I really connect with your story and the decision that, you and your family made. I just think it's so tremendous to take that leap of faith and just, go out there and do something different and live, kind of a non-traditional lifestyle, so to speak. And so, with that in mind, I was looking at, wine storage as a business, and I was researching wine storage facilities literally all over the world. And what I quickly realized, Nico, was that most of these places were just basic utilitarian storage. It was a warehouse at 55 degrees where people would store their excess wine. And I was just so puzzled by that, because as someone who loves wine and has been a collector for years, the only thing that I love more than buying wine is drinking it with other people who love wine. So that's kind of when the light bulb went off. And I said, man, what if we kind of create this experiential hospitality component with, wine storage? So not only do we give people a place to store their wine, but more importantly, we'll give them a place to drink it and experience it with other like-minded individuals. So with that in mind, I was, looking at various restaurants, various hospitality concepts. I'm looking at design. I'm looking at build out. I'm, talking to industry professionals. And again, just kind of conceptualizing everything that goes into a hospitality operation to try to, put together what Bottle Bank ultimately would become.
Yeah, no, I'm sure there's a ton that goes into that.
Yeah.
Well, when you were traveling, did you ever, you said you went to a couple international locations. Did you make it over to Europe, to Italy at all?
Not that under that particular time, but I've been to Italy several times.
Okay.
So, and Italy was one of my favorite countries for the obvious reasons. The architecture is beautiful and the food's incredible and the wine's incredible, and the kind of dolce vita type lifestyle that they just embrace so wonderfully. It's just, they know how to live. I mean, Italians do it really, really well. So
they certainly do.
So it's a great place to visit.
So
and different,
my
like Northern Italy is different from, the Amalfi Coast, and Tuscany is different from, Rome or, Florence, and Venice is
Sicily,
like a storybook. And yeah, it's just it's an amazing place with all different, again, inspiration, such a powerful word. And you're fortunate enough to experience those things and bring those memories back to you and those experiences. And, think to yourself, one example, I was in Madrid and went to this little restaurant. I walked right in, and at the front, they had this big, slab of Iberico, and the guy was just, carving it. And I just said, one day, and I was thinking about Bottle Bank. And so we've decided to have Iberico come out to the table and shave it table side, and present it. And, prosciutto obviously is a big thing. And if you've had regular prosciutto and prosciutto aged 6 months and 12 months and 24 months, and kind of the progression and what that does to the texture and the flavor. And if you go to Amsterdam and you eat Gouda, it's the same thing. You can taste this Gouda aged 6 months and 12 months and 24 months, and the richness and the character that these things take on over time. And, created prosciutto flights and Gouda flights, and, eating it is one thing, but eating 6 next to 12, next to 24 to understand the difference. And, wine's very similar. You can drink a Cabernet next to a Pinot Noir, and you can understand the subtle differences and nuances between those varietals. But giving somebody the opportunity to drink, 4 Cabernets side by side, a Super Tuscan versus, California Cabernet versus a Bordeaux versus, something from Washington State. Again, same grape, but very different expression. So I think it's that those moments of discovery are so impactful, and you kind of see people smile and you give them that experience. And it's a wonderful way to live life, I think. So that's really what we're after when it comes to Bottle Bank.
Totally, man. Yeah. I mean, so my wife and I, for our 1 year anniversary, this was years ago now, we've been married for a while now, but our 1 year anniversary, our goal was to go to Italy and to go to the town of Alba in Western Italy. And that's like where the Barolo and Barbaresco, wine regions are. And every October,
Yeah,
November, they
truffles.
do exactly. Yeah. So every October, November, they do the White Truffle Festival. It's like a 2 month long festival. And so that was our goal, to go there for a week for our 1 year anniversary. All kinds of stuff came up, work, whatever. We couldn't do it. But once we started actually like living life remotely, we ended up in 2023. We just spent the entire month of October there and did like all the White Truffle Festival events, went
Yeah.
to multiple different Barolo vineyards and did like wine tastings and tours and all that stuff. And I mean, one of the most amazing times of our life for
So,
sure. And so,
fantastic.
yeah. And just like what you're saying with like the flight or the tasting where you've got like four different, glasses of wine, and this one's a Barolo, and this one is the Nebbiolo grape, but it wasn't actually grown in the Barolo area. So it's just a Langhe Nebbiolo. And so we got to taste like all the different types. And it is such an amazing experience. And you learn about the history simultaneously. If you can bring that trip somehow and like bottle it up and then open it up for people in Bottle Bank, I mean, that is a fantastic accomplishment if you could pull that off. I got
Well, thank you. We've got a great team and a lot of fun stuff planned. So we're excited. And I have to ask, so did you kind of develop a love for Italian wines? Did you bring that home with you? Or are you still drinking the Italians? Or you kind of moved on to other things? Or where are you now with your wine journey?
Yeah, I honestly have not changed since then. So I'm sticking to the Barolos and the Barbarescos. Although, I mean, we also spent about a month and a half in Spain, and so there was a lot of Rioja and Tempranillo while we were there, and I really liked both of those too. So those are kind of the wines that I pull from. But I beyond those, I can't. I don't know what is a good cab or a Pinot, or I haven't like gone down that road yet, really.
Hey, you're off to a great start with those two, man. You don't need to go much further, man. Rioja's fantastic, and Barolo and Barbaresco, yeah, all great stuff.
Nice. The other thing I wanted to mention, you were talking about the cheese. There, one time I went to this, and I know you've got all your inspiration already, but I'm throwing ideas at you.
No, keep them coming, man. I love them.
I think it was in New York City actually when I went to the restaurant Carbone, and it was like off in the corner. They had just this massive block of Parmesan cheese, and they would just kind of like almost chisel pieces out of it and then like bring you these big chunks. You got to have that for sure if you're serving like prosciutto and stuff like that with the wine. It's so good.
Yeah, Carbone does. I know exactly what you're talking about. Carbone does a great job, and the Parmesan wheels, the Pecorino wheels, are really fun. One of the things that we're doing tableside too is we're doing like a Parmesan wheel or a Pecorino wheel presentation. So again, the wheel comes out tableside and it's hollowed out in the center. So you can take risotto, you can take gnocchi, you can take pasta, put it right in there and, prepare it tableside, flambe it with a little cognac to add some sweetness and the offsets the saltiness of the Pecorino, and shave some fresh truffles on, and again, plate it tableside. And it's pure heaven, man. Drink that with a good Barolo, and life doesn't get much better.
Yeah, man, you could do. Oh man, all right. I want to start talking about Bottle Bank a little bit, because now I'm getting all these cool ideas of you could do your Bordeaux day, or okay, this is the Provence day, and like everything is just themed as if you are like in the region of Provence, and it's all rosés and food that goes with it. So I'm sure you're planning out all kinds of crazy stuff like that, but what I kind of want to ask is, you're traveling around, you're getting all these ideas, and suddenly you're like, okay, I want to do Bottle Bank. Now you're just starting a business, right? So it's sort of the same experience as anybody else who's starting any other type of business. And usually what happens is there's all types of obstacles, and you've got to pivot, and crazy things happen. So like from your initial inspiration of Bottle Bank to where it is now, have you gone through crazy pivots, or you hit obstacles, or like what has that been like getting it off the ground?
It's been all of the above. It's interesting. Again, I've been in financial services, sales and consulting my entire life. My business partner, serial entrepreneur, but again, more services based. And we always joke with each other. This is a real business. It's a brick and mortar business. there's inventory and there's, real estate and there's leases and there's personal guarantees and there's financing. If you come from insurance or accounting, or the legal background, I mean, you need a laptop and a cell phone in your basement and you're in business. So the first thing we had to do was find a space, so you got to decide, where do you want to be geographically? So all the research that goes into that, the demographics of the area, the income levels of the area, the education levels, the family types, all of those, like who's going to come, who's going to be your customer. So that's the first thing. Who's our customer? Where do those people live? Then you got to find a location. Then the location has to be very specific because again, we're at about 9,000 to 10,000 square feet of usable space. If you think about a traditional restaurant, it's more in that 3,500 to 4,500. So we're double the size. So that spatial requirement in and of itself is a pretty unique ask. There's not a lot of those out there.
And what percentage of that? What percentage of that space? What percentage of that space is the actual like storage versus the hangout lounge? 2,500
to 3,000 square feet of that is storage. About 3,000 of it is lounge, and then the remaining 3,000 is kitchen and tasting rooms and chef's table and members only lounge and those types of things. So that was the other thing too. We had to think about conceptually, what do we want to execute in terms of experience? And then, can we shoehorn all of that into the space in terms of how does it lay out? What are the ceiling heights, ingress, egress? People are going to be bringing wine in, bringing wine out. What's the parking like? Do we deal with stairs? Are there elevators? So all of that, just logistical stuff. Then there's, again, the licensing requirements. Now you're in the alcohol business. So storing wine versus pouring wine, beer and wine versus liquor, all of that is state specific. It's municipality specific. So you have to go into that researching, and then the zoning side of it, we had to research that. Are you a hospitality business in mixed use? Are you a storage business in industrial? Can you put an industrial use business in a mixed use zoned area? So all of those. Then of course there's the legal and there's the financial and the partnership agreements and, all of the, crossing the T's, dotting the I's sorts of things. And then there's building the team, and there's the architects and the contractors and the designers and, all the outside resources, the kitchen consultant, everybody coming in to kind of help you design the space. And then of course you have to bring in a team to execute it. Your sommeliers, your managers, your executive chef, servers, all those teams. So it's multiple steps in the process. And of course there's the basic blocking and tackling of, public relations and marketing and, pre-sales and the biggest challenge that we had was finding the space. We were kind of checking the boxes on all the reasons not to do a deal. We're in the hospitality business, which is horrible. Restaurant business specifically. It's an unproven concept. So it's not a steakhouse or a sushi restaurant. People know what that is. So it's an unproven concept, and with two business guys that had never had any hospitality experience. So we were checking all the boxes on why this thing's never going to work. So, finding a partner and a landlord that was going to, take a chance on us was an interesting endeavor in and of itself. And we looked at several different spaces and had letters of intent on several spaces and just couldn't put the deal together economically. So we got close, and then the deal fell through because interest rates went in a different direction. We were part of redevelopment. So we're in the final stages of negotiating the lease, and they pulled the deal. And again, I could go on for hours talking about all the ups and downs, but it's been an amazing experience, and I've learned a lot, and I've been humbled. And there's been days where you just wanted to, go back and get a job, so to speak. So I've learned a lot in the process, and I've definitely grown a lot in the process as well. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to do it.
Yeah. Wow. So, and everything you just said all occurs really before there's even $1 of revenue generated.
That's it. I mean, and then you spend all this money and all this time, and you hope people show up.
So
yeah, it's like anything. You de-risk it as best you can on the front end, and
yeah,
you make decisions that are as thoughtful as they possibly can be. But there's, of course, those elements of uncertainty, and we will make some mistakes. We will get some things wrong. But positive side of that is we've had the runway to be very thorough and very thoughtful. And again, we're in the best possible position can be
yeah.
in. So we'll get
So
there.
all this upfront like capital expenditure, are you financing it through, like, did you bring on equity partners? It sounds like from what you said, you would probably not be able to finance it all with debt because it seems like a risky sort of thing. So how did you manage that? You have equity partners and maybe a little bit of debt, or what are you doing there?
No, it's just my partner and I. My business partner and I are self-funding the whole in this in a big way. And we're not absentee owners. This isn't a vanity project. This isn't our parents' money. This isn't inherited money. This is our money. And we're risking it on something we believe very strongly about. And banks won't touch us, and SBA won't touch us. And again, we had to put our money where our mouth was, and you couldn't, in good faith, ask somebody else for their money if you're not going to put your own in. So we just decided for simplicity, and we're gonna fund it ourselves. So that's the other thing too. You got all this money going out, and to your point, no revenue coming in to offset it. So it's at times a stressful way to live, but the upside potential is so great, and that's it's a classic risk versus return. So we put our heads down and went to work.
It sounds amazing. I mean, honestly, I have full faith based on what you've described. It's the kind of place that if I ever drove by it, I would stop and go in. And so
that's great to hear,
FYI.
Nico. I appreciate that feedback. Really, that just means a lot.
Awesome. So where are you right now in terms of like the launch date? Are you guys actually up and running yet, or are you?
We're not. We are in the tail end of the design phase. So we've got a kind of a 12-month, what's the word we'd use? Kind of a 12 months timeline, so all the team is in place, and we're in the middle of the design phase, which is the fun phase. We're up to our eyeballs and fabrics and millwork and marble and, tile and all this wonderful fun stuff. And then we'll finish that. We'll submit for permitting. We'll get the building permits. We'll have a 5 to 6 month build out to open July of August next year. So summer 2025. Yep.
Awesome. And is this the kind of thing where you are like, it's basically a full-time job doing all this build out and all this thinking and designing and all that's taking up all your time? That's crazy.
It is. When I was kind of transitioning into Bottle Bank, I thought about, is there something I should kind of do as a side hustle, or should I do consulting, or should I, go back into sales and kind of, start up a mini financial services practice again. And I just realized I wanted and needed to be 100% focused on this. I needed to be all in with all my energy, all my focus, singularly focused on the big picture, because the consequences of failure was so significant that I wanted to make sure I had the capacity to go all in. So this is the full-time job. My business partner is in the same situation. He had a business that he was involved in, and he had a 3 or 4 year commitment to that, and then kind of transitioned out to this full time. And I think sometimes we, drive our team crazy because, our sense of urgency and our ability to, commit and have it be the only thing we're working on. Most people, you think about most restaurateurs, they've got 2 or 3 restaurants and they're opening up a third, or they're opening up a fourth. And so they've got other businesses to run. And so they're kind of, dipping in and dipping out of different points in the process, where we are, driving the ship and, very active, very involved, and, talking about what we're doing and how we're doing it. So
what have you learned in all of your research, talking to these other, professional hospitality, executives? What is like the hardest part about hospitality? That's an industry I don't have much experience in. What's like the big challenge or the big red flag or whatever you need to be careful of?
I think most people in hospitality would tell you the biggest challenge they have now is labor. It's
Okay.
finding good people, and that's really true of any business, but especially in hospitality. It's finding people that are going to care as much as you do about your business. And I
Yeah.
think the other thing that's challenging is, the hospitality business is a business that is, um, very out in front. It's in the public eye, it's highly critiqued, and it's critiqued in real time. Someone goes to dinner and then 2 minutes later in the car on the way home, they're online writing a Yelp review or, screaming at you on Google about, this was horrible. I waited 10 minutes for my table instead of 8 minutes. And they gave me two pieces of bread instead of three. And my water glass got, half empty. I mean, it's just, people love to complain about things. So I think
Yeah.
it's being able to execute at a high level on a consistent basis, because there's so many factors that go into it. And then again, having a business that is highly critiqued in real time, I think are big challenges for hospitality. But other than that, it's the labor and just the economics of hospitality too is the other thing. Labor costs have increased
Hmm.
substantially. Cost of
Hmm.
goods have increased substantially. So if the price of beef goes up 30%, you can't increase the price of your steak 30% overnight. You have to absorb that somehow. So in a business
Yeah.
that already has razor thin margins, they've gotten even thinner. So it's a tough business.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it sounds like you're designing a concept that is a little bit more upscale luxury in a way. And I mean, the labor that I've experienced when I go to places like that, Ritz Carlton or the One Hotel or whatever, they are a very talented and I think satisfied labor pool with their work, because it is sort of this like aspirational job that they take pride in. So hopefully you'll be able to benefit, from some of those sorts of things.
Yeah, I think so. And, we were very intentional from the outset in kind of designing a business model that was pretty unique. And, as gracious and as wonderful as the hospitality community in Atlanta has been to us in terms of their time and their knowledge, everyone's just been so wonderful. And it's been great to tap into those resources. Sometimes it's hard to really get people to understand, what we're doing and why we're different. They've a chef that owns a restaurant is going to look at everything through the lens of a restaurant. And even though we have
Yeah.
a food component, we're not a restaurant, don't want to be in the restaurant business, and have, purposefully designed our business to not be in the restaurant business. So, we tried to look at, effective ways to generate revenue, generate it with high margins. And then you add that membership component to kind of that subscription based revenue that, all companies absolutely love. So it's high margin food and beverage. It's high margin recurring revenue, subscription revenue on the membership side. So, we hopefully don't have the economic pressures that a lot of other hospitality concepts do for those reasons.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about the pricing, and maybe you haven't determined this yet, but obviously you have like a, food and beverage sales sort of portion of this, which I'm sure will be like market rate or whatever, depending on the quality of the food and beverage, which it sounds like is going to be great quality. Then, then talk to me about like the pricing, if you've thought about it, on the storage fees, because the whole point of this is people can store their wine collection in here, right? And then they show up here, and this is sort of like their home away from home, where they can just come relax and drink their wine that they're storing there, right?
You got it precisely. Yeah. So it's a great question. And when I was doing my research on traditional wine storage, it was pretty easy to figure out what wine storage costs. And in many cases, it's just a commodity. Again, it was utilitarian storage. So
Hmm.
it's typically based on capacity and it's priced accordingly. And so when we first started looking at, what a membership would cost, we had to decide, what do you get as a member? And then secondly, what's somebody willing to pay for that? So it was actually my business partner. I was thinking about more traditional numbers in terms of wine storage. And it was my business partner that said, I think we're in a different business. We're in the experience business, and people will pay more money
Hmm.
for experiences. So as that kind of being a driving theme, we thought about, I think we are in the experience business. And as a result of that, let's think about the experiences we can offer our members and give them real value. So as kind of a side note, in Atlanta specifically, private clubs are really kind of having their moment. There's a couple that have existed. There's a couple more that have come online the last couple of years. And then there's a couple more that are in development. So Atlanta as a market really has its choice in terms of, if they want to be part of a private club, and if so, what that involves. And, my partner and I both been in parts of private clubs in both in Atlanta and in Las Vegas. So we're very familiar with, what you get for your money. And a lot of times it's not that much. It's a room where you can buy an expensive dinner, and it's a beautifully appointed room and the food's great, but what am I really paying for? So we specifically tried to think about, okay, what do wine members enjoy and what can we offer them? And then what are those other private clubs? What are they pricing their memberships at? And then, we kind of extrapolated it out from there. So not only do we think we offer a better package of true value, as an example, a private vault to store your wine, not paying a corkage fee in the lounge, access to a members only space, access to our executive chef to customize private dining experiences. So, you and your wife have your anniversary coming up. You've got these 3 bottles of Barolo that you've been storing for 15 years that you want to drink at your 10th anniversary. You sit down with our chef and say, hey, we're bringing my parents and 3 other couples are best friends, and we want to pour these Barolos. And the Som sits down with the chef and says, what do you like to eat, Nico? And we love this. And then chef puts together this, customized 6-course tasting menu, private dining experience to pair specifically with your Barolo. I mean, there's real value in that. Where else can you do that anywhere else? Private wine tastings and access to wine dinners and a wine club and a cheese club and, preferred reservations and access to boutique allocations for wine at discounted prices. And again, all these things that wine lovers love to do and experience, all of that is part of the membership at Bottle Bank versus, hey, I can go have an expensive dinner in a really pretty place. And sometimes because nobody's there, and sometimes it's full, but it's full of the same people that I see every Friday night that I have for every month for the last 2 years. So being open to the public, having the added social benefit of being open to the public, that energy, those new faces, but having the ability to opt into an elevated experience and kind of have that concierge level service on the membership side, we think is a pretty interesting model.
Totally. Yeah. And the concierge thing is so cool. I mean, I've been a member of certain clubs like that. And, if you go often enough, which you should, and you want them to, right? You want them to.
Sure.
If you go often enough, then the sommelier, the chef, the bartenders, they all know you. You come in, they give you the drink that you want right away because they already know you order it every time, or the tapas or whatever that you always like to eat. And it makes the experience so much better. It really does feel like home away from home. And then whenever you have family come in town, or friends come in town, that is always the place you're going to go bring them for one of those great experiences that you mentioned. Because it's like, come do this really cool thing that you're not going to get anywhere else. It's really cool.
What I think too, for the professionals out there that entertain clients, again, coming in and being able to do a private dining experience that's customizable to you versus going to one of your chain steakhouses and, here's your choice of super salad. Here's your salmon, your filet, or your chicken. Here's your side served family style. And here's your cheesecake and lava cake, choose one from each category. Again, not a bad experience because those guys do it and do it well. Yeah. But, to be able to do it in an intimate environment where they know your name and, you pick the wines or we can pick the wines for you. And, hey, we want to do a steak centric menu or a seafood centric menu. Or, man, when I was in Italy, I had this cookie in Tuscany that had truffles and cream sauce. And if chef could do something like that, it'd be amazing. And okay, if you don't ask, we can't say yes. So, let us know what you want and we'll make it happen. So a private wine tasting or team building activity, again, all these fun things that's nuanced around wine. We're excited, man. We're excited.
Super cool. Awesome. Well, Damon, I want to kind of wrap up here, but, where can people stay in the know as you guys are developing this out and, marching towards summer of 2025 when you have your big grand opening? How can people stay in touch?
Bottlebank.com. Super simple.
Okay.
Yep. We've got some concept images online now. Talks a little bit about, the concept and membership and all that stuff. We're constantly updating because things are moving so rapidly and so quickly. And again, all the updates, all the information. Subscribe to the newsletter. We'll hit you with the updates. And anytime anybody's around to visit, we'd love to host you.
Well, Damon, thank you so much, man. I learned a lot, and I really can't wait for you guys to open. I have some family in Atlanta, so I will be visiting them once you open up Bottle Bank, and I'll be stopping by and saying hello.
Hey, we'll pop a cork on some Barolo and look forward to hosting you and your family, Nico. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thanks so much for the kind words, and appreciate you having me on, man. Really enjoyed it.